What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Football. We're bringing it back. We actually really enjoyed our last time being on doing this episode. It was pretty fun to just go and just, talk and shoot the shit about whatever. I got actually a good amount of topics today I brought. I don't know what you have today, Adam, but I figured we can kind of go through these and kind of just discuss. I would say the first one I just want to bring up, I'll start it off, is Son Heung-min going to LAFC,
Mm,
leaving Tottenham after being
glad
there
you brought that one up.
forever, and now going to cut his chops in the MLS. I think he's coming at relatively a young age, definitely a more productive age. I think LAFC, obviously, the Giroud experiment didn't work out. I mean, as somebody who's a Milan fan, I probably kind of saw the writing on the wall there for LAFC, but I was like, you never know. I mean, you're comparing Milan to like MLS, so. But I think you're getting a guy who's in a lot better physical shape because Giroud towards the end, he didn't have it anymore. I think he
He
is going to
arguably never had
absolute.
it
Yeah,
at LAFC.
but I think this is a massive signing for LAFC. They wanted that big deal signing. Koreatown's going crazy right now in LA, and it is going to be wild. I think that's going to. I can't wait to watch him play for LAFC. It's going to be really fun. I think him with Denny Bwanga and everybody else behind him, like, it's going to be a really entertaining. And honestly, I didn't expect it. I did not expect it. I figured Tottenham were going to kind of move on from him eventually. Obviously, he was getting kind of towards the end. But yeah. What'd you think of this when you saw this?
Definitely surprised me, that's for sure. It's it's fun that I get to root against him still. So he's, still staying in a league that I follow and I have a rooting interest in. So that's funny. Um, who do you think, side note, who do you think had his discovery rights? I wonder who LAFC had to pay off for that one. Because I know how MLS has some stupid ass discovery rights rules about like random players. You hear like Kevin De Bruyne discovery rights are owned by like Cincinnati or some shit or whatever. And it's like
Yeah.
random stuff. It's like, what? Why?
Dude, I hate the discovery rights. It's so dumb. It's just free money. I could just be like, yo, I want Ronaldo. It's like building a fantasy team that you don't actually draft them. You like trade your potential fantasy picks. It's weird. But I don't know if I don't recall hearing anything about it, so it makes me think LAFC had his rights. The next player I want to bring up after this, I do know the discovery rights for that one, and that one's interesting. But yeah, I don't know, but
It's interesting.
it,
And seeing these players, you have some good players going to, not just Inter Miami now, all over the league to many different teams. I was thinking about this looking at the transfer news recently, and this is, I think historically, I think the answer is probably going to get a lot of people saying one thing, but especially recently, at least in this transfer window cycle, I'm curious to see what you think, but I think that MLS has been outdoing Saudi Arabia with some of these transfers. I think overall, I
mm,
think when you're talking messaging and branding and performance, I think, there's MLS is starting to get some players who have some gas left in the tank. They're not just coming here to crash out. I'm seeing like what Darwin Nunez is gonna go to Saudi Arabia. It's like that's a marquee, big departure from Europe, and it's like, wow, that's what they're resorting to now.
someone doesn't like Liverpool.
We got
Um,
Human Song, Rodrigo De
man, that's
Paul, and Thomas Muller. I mean, come on now. I feel like the MLS is dogging on Saudi right now.
Man, that's tough. I don't know if MLS is clearing it. I think it's close. It's hard to say. Now, obviously, there's a lot more diversification when you come into the MLS with the amount of players that they're bringing in and the type of players that they're bringing in. I think MLS, not so much what Saudi Arabia has done. I think MLS has done a lot to bring in good developing talent that I think Saudi Arabia still struggles to bring. Things like guys like the Thiago Almadas or guys like Barco back in the day, or the if you look at Miami, you look at Talasso Segovia, or you look even Denny Bwanga and LAFC. Like I think LAFC is kind of missing the mark on some of those. I mean LAFC. Saudi Arabia's kind of missing the mark on some of those players. But in terms of the whole, I don't know. It's hard. Now, I will say this. I think MLS has done a much better job at marketing their players and getting players that people want to watch.
I
I will
factor
say,
that into my point when I was saying
because
overall.
like I don't know if there's a single person, and maybe because I'm not so much of a person who follow a fan of like individual players, there would never be a single person that would motivate me to go watch the Saudi league. Like I'm not like then again, like I said, I'm a little different in that sense. I'm more of a, I guess, traditionalist in that sense where I follow a team, not a player. So maybe that's me, but I feel like, and maybe because I'm involved in the MLS sphere and being in America and all this stuff, I just hear about it more. But it seems like, I mean, you look at Saudi attendance. I mean, there's games with Ronaldo in it where they're like barely selling out. And I'm not talking about the big dogs, obviously. We want to talk about those. Those guys are like in a completely different stratosphere. But when I'm looking at the league as a whole, it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, man, dude, do you think this gets LAFC over the hump? Like, do you think they can really start pushing for the cup now? Because they were really slow, like going into this season, and I wasn't like super high on them, but somehow they got that qualification to the World Cup against Club America. So it seems to be that they're
I
turning it
think
around
they
a little
were
bit.
that kind of team, they were close, they were almost there. Um, Sometimes that, especially in league play, that when you're almost there, the results can look a lot worse than your team really is. I think that they're better than what they've shown, and I think if any signing is gonna throw them over the hump, this one definitely would.
Yeah, because you could. I mean, you're also talking not just a goal scorer. The guy's a creative threat as well. I mean, he just eclipsed 100 assists for Tottenham in his career, which he's at 101. But let's go to the next player. You briefly mentioned him, Thomas Muller, going to Vancouver. So this one, I'm not super. All right, I love Muller as a player. He is the ultimate like dirty job player. Like he's not the most beautiful, skillful player you'll ever watch, but he is just so incredibly intelligent when he plays the game off the ball. He just know always like throughout his career, he's always known how to be at the right spot at the right time. But this is a guy, he similar to Giroud in this fact, he has not aged well into the sport. I saw a stat or something like that where he hasn't had like basically a really productive season in the last like 5 years or something like that. Which, when you think about it and you think about Bayern the last 5 years, when was the last time you've thought of Thomas Muller as a key contributor to that team? It's been a while. And same thing with Germany. I don't know how much he's gonna. I mean, he might shock me. I don't know. Then again, if you look at this Vancouver team, this is a Vancouver team that is surrounded by runners. I don't know if you remember during the Champions Cup run that they had. Obviously, made it to the finals and then got blown out for some odd reason after even beating Monterrey, beating Inter Miami, beating Pumas. Somehow they get absolutely obliterated in the final. But they got runners behind him, so he's not going to be super dependent on trying to be, the guy that let's say like the Ricky Pooch for example, the guy who's just like is just everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have guys like that, Sebastian Berhalter. You have the striker up top, Brian White, who's kind of another one where he just happens to be at the right spot at the right time. So yeah, this one's going to be interesting. I'm not expecting much, to be honest with you. I would be more surprised that he makes a big difference than I would be if he didn't. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think he's the kind of guy, he kind of reminds me of the type of player. I don't know why I can't think of an example right now in like one of the big American leagues. Um, but like a kind of guy on your team that you just like to have in the locker room. I guess for people who are South Florida people, because that's the one example I could think of, like a Udonis Haslem for the Miami Heat, like he was
Yeah.
just sitting there making the
Like,
fucking just chilling on the bench. But it's like they there's a reason why he never sniffed a game for the past couple years, but it's like there's a reason that they're deciding to keep these players around. I think that Mueller, his transfer would be a success if even if he doesn't put up numbers like really at all, but the team gets better around him and they play well as a team, I think that you can chalk that up to to Muller because he's that kind of guy. He's just going to be a great guy to have in training day in and day out for some of these players.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see. I'm interested in to see how that whole saga goes and how long he's going to be there. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be there super long. I don't know. Vancouver is a team that's playing really well, and maybe this could get them over the hump, but I'm not super sold on it. I do want to talk about. I'm going to move over to Europe. Oh, actually, no. I'll give me a top. I've done the two, so why don't you give me something that you saw?
All right, say that again.
Give me something that you saw. Give me a news topic. I gave you two.
Oh,
I got some more if you need it, but
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was just making sure I still had it on my screen, so I zoned out for a second. Um, this is it's interesting. It caught my eye, and it's just like I feel like with all the stories that have happened, and I'm not saying, okay, listen, it's all alleged at this point. Does soccer ha or sports in general have a sexual assault problem? I mean, Jesus Christ.
you turned it around real quick. I was
I
not
knew this was going to
expecting
be an
that.
interesting one, but like Jesus Christ, the amount of players that keep getting like we've had all these stories in the past, and it's like okay, finally Thomas Partey gets named. Now he's in a freaking court case, and then freaking
The moment
Hakimi
he leaves
now is getting
Arsenal,
yeah. The moment he leaves
the
Arsenal, they
moment
charge him, and now we got Hakimi. What is going on with these players? They're like I don't understand. They have perfectly good careers, and they're like putting themselves in this position. I feel like there's been a large uptick of this, and it's starting to be like, what the hell, guys?
dude, my thought process through all this, and you know me, I've always followed like the NFL and NBA and stuff. And like you said, it's not so much just a soccer. It's obviously a big sports problem. I think a lot of it, man, is just somebody told me this, and I thought it was really interesting. Is that a lot of these players throughout their entire life have always been told that they're amazing, that they're great. Very obviously very few, and the ones who had to like push their way through and prove themselves usually end up being like pretty good dudes. But the ones who are just always gifted from the jump and always were because the thing to be at that level, you were always the best up until you got to the highest level. And I think when you're told that so much throughout your adolescence and through your young adulthood that you just get this feeling of invincibility, so you can do whatever you want and people are all over you and they want you. And that's always just kind of been my thought process. So you think nothing can ever happen to you. And quite honestly, it's proven time and time again that nothing will happen to you. I mean, if you look at Michael Vick, for example, if we want to bring it to like football, a guy
Yeah.
who did horrific things to dogs. And he was back in the league 2 years later and playing well. And it's just like I don't want to say we reward them, but you don't punish them. And obviously, certain leagues and confederations and whatever they have different fining or whatever they might do or conduct policies. But let's be real. At the end of the day, this guy bangs in goals. If he wins you a cup, your team's going to win like an extra 10 or $15 million, whatever it is. Your team's gladly going to pay your fine or whatever it might be. So I don't know, man. It's
Yeah,
one of
to that
those
point, I
where
mean, it's
I just
interesting
think
because
these guys just think they're
there's
invincible.
teams that are still trying to sign these players. So that's a great point. I mean, I'm still reading news stories that Villarreal are are like looking at this story and like, all right, can we sign him or not? They're like, what? So you have that where it's like even there's other teams that are still like, okay, well, if he's not in jail yet, we'll sign him. Um, but it's just craziness. I thought it was at least worth mentioning because after seeing another story of that, it's like, all right, enough. Gotta at least tell these guys, no, stop.
No, stop. Nah, I don't think it's
Don't
ever gonna
don't do it.
stop, man.
It's not,
I don't know.
but it does, at some points when it gets a little in your face, it just needs to be repeated. But I want to
Well, and I think
change
too,
to yeah,
sometimes I'll end it right here and we can move on.
yeah,
I think sometimes, dude, these guys got to be more careful because you also can't like a lot of these guys could fall into traps. Not to say that like I'm defending the terrible people that did these things. Obviously,
Yeah, that's
But
true. There's
there's
there's plenty
also a lot of
of those people out
scenarios
there.
where you get caught, you get trapped, or you're in the wrong environment, the wrong time. And I think, like you said, maybe like we're talking about the Thomas Muller, having a good locker room unit or having a guy who can like a coach who can put these guys, put him in a good situation and be more mature and understand like, all right, I don't want to be involved in this because this is going to lead into something. Because as a man, you have to realize that you got to put yourself in certain positions to not have bad things happen to you. So, but yeah, I'll let you move on. What's the next one you got?
Yeah, so I actually got one that's a fun fact that I came across on Reddit earlier today, and I just think it's interesting because with all these transfers, it's summer, so that's kind of that's the theme of all these news stories that seems to be, happening is just transfers and the occasional, some international break, some MLS stuff going on. Uh, but there was a player named Jorel Hato that was signed by Chelsea. That marks Chelsea's 49th signing in 4 years. Now, context was given to show you how much that is. 49 signings ago for Manchester United was June 2014 when they brought in Ander Herrera. 49 signings ago for Liverpool was Nathaniel Klein in July of 2015. I feel like Chelsea have always been this team where they don't really care. They'd rather just bring in 20 players and hope three of them stick. It's
Chelsea,
it's interesting. I mean, they had rules created for them because they would sign all these players and you'd look at their team and they would have like 20 to 25 players out on loan. It was kind of insane. Is this just
it's
even with leadership change and stuff like this, is this how they operate? I mean, is that what they're doing? Are they doing like the sign 20 and hope three stick? Because, I mean, you can't talk too bad about them. They accidentally walked their way into winning another Champions League, even though they've
and
been,
champions and a Club World Cup.
yeah, and even though they've been, yeah, in the Club World Cup. That's Forgot about that one, huh? Yeah, I guess the FIFA experiment failed. I forgot already. Um, but yeah, it's crazy because they have some success, but I think consistency has been an issue for them, and it's been like this throughout multiple leadership changes. Why hasn't it changed? I mean, who's in behind the scenes in Chelsea making these decisions where they're like, we're still going to continue to sign all these players and just say screw it.
Dude, I've always said, like, since they started doing this a few years ago, it's bad for football. And I genuinely feel that whether it be the Premier League or, I mean, the English FA or UEFA, whoever, somebody needs to step in because it is to me genuinely bad for football. It's it's no different. Let's say like it's kind of like the housing market where you get all these corporations buying up everything, so where there's no supply for anybody else, and it ruins it. And then these loans. The thing is, loans should be no player, and here's the problem: is that I believe Chelsea they allure people and allure these kids or guys, whoever, um, to their team because of who they are, the name, knowing damn well, Chelsea knowing damn well that they're never going to even touch the field for them. They're just using them as loan bait to eventually sell it off somewhere else, then stealing. Well, I don't want to say stealing because they agree to terms, so I don't want to say that. But it's just I don't know, man. I don't like it at all. I think it's bad for player development. I think players need to go to places where they're going to play or at least compete for a spot. The idea that this team can come in and take all these players knowing that they're never going to touch the field and they're just using them to loan them out and then sell them again. Yeah, it's business, but I won't even say it's necessarily useful for them. Like you said, I don't necessarily think it's working for them. They've been kind of middling the last few years. Yes, they won the Club World Cup, which is they're officially world champions, and they're going to wear that patch for the next 4 years. But I don't know, man. I just don't like it. I think it's bad for the players. I think it's bad for just the competitive spirit of everything. It just I don't know, man. I really don't like it. It's terrible to me because it doesn't help anybody. I don't even think it helps Chelsea because they're not actually the players aren't even actually there playing with those teammates. And so like, okay, yeah, you play well on your loan, you come back mid loan or whatever it might be, or maybe your loan's ending.
There's no
There's too many
guarantees.
players. And one example I want to use too is like we look at a guy like Christian Pulisic, right? He was a guy that played well at Chelsea at times. Obviously had his injury problems, but I don't necessarily. But I think what killed him, and obviously maybe he's just not built for it. Maybe other people aren't. But when you're playing at a team like Chelsea, you're constantly under pressure if your job's going to be taken. And I know some people are going to say that's a good thing. And I do think it is a good thing to an extent. But the problem is if you can have one bad game and then lose your starting spot the next week, which let's not forget, Chelsea was doing that for a while there. I mean, their starting 11s were like flip flopping like back and forth like crazy. And it's like, how are you supposed to build any sort of team chemistry? How are you supposed to build any confidence in guys who are having slow periods, even though that they're, I mean, we look at a guy like Vinicius Jr., right? His first 2 or 3 years at Real Madrid was god awful. He was terrible. He got minutes after minute. Benzema literally said, "Don't." He told Mendy, "Don't pass Vinicius the ball because he's playing for the other team." He dead ass said that. I don't know if you remember that, Adam, but he said that. And but look what happened. Vinicius is one of the best players in the world. He was a Ballon d'Or contender last year. He is Madrid's star player. Sometimes guys just need time, and constantly being under pressure isn't always good. I think you need to prove that, hey, you're not safe. Like you can't get like 7 starts in a row and be terrible. Like I think the Vinicius example was a little extreme because I do think that at times he probably shouldn't have been playing, but they stuck with it, and now look what happened. And I think this whole Chelsea experiment just doesn't work well to me. I mean, when we think of one like massively guy who's going to be like a world class player, the only guy I can think on Chelsea right now, I got two. I would say is Cole Palmer, which has proven himself, which I was wrong. I was a Cole Palmer doubter. But that guy has proven to show up in massive moments. And then I'll say Cucurella. I think Cucurella he's played very well. Um, not just for club, but for country as well. But yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on that. I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me on any of those.
For the most part, I do. I think that yeah, there's not really too much more to add. I mean, I think that as an Arsenal fan, it's hard to criticize it too much because of what they have, but what they have won recently. But it is interesting, and I'm sure that it's more of a discussion, and I was more interested just like, you know, to hear those thoughts about the sport and about like just the different approaches to going at it and why they may have that strategy. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I look at a team like City. Like City is not like that to that extent. Usually, when City is going to sign somebody, Pep has an idea that hey, he's going to play. I have a specific role that he's going to play in the team because obviously we all know Pep's system is a very well-oiled machine. Like guys, it has to fit perfectly,
Yeah.
and that's proven by how many English titles have they won now? I mean, and then obviously the Champions League title. So I don't know. But then you look at Chelsea in that same time frame. Yeah, if you want, oh, what has it led to? I mean, yes, they got the Champions League, yes, they got the Club World Cup, but in terms of a league performance over the stretch of 34 games, they got it to they. I think they're finally playing Champions League ball for the first time in like what 3 4 years now. So yeah. Do you got another topic, or I figure we do one more? I got one if you don't have one. I
I
got
got one.
two, but I'm on the
I,
fence.
I got one more. I don't know if this is something that it's been going on for a little while, but I heard reports now as of this morning that Alexander Isak has been banned from team training.
Okay, that was one of those for mine. Okay.
He now has to train by himself. Um, what's funny though is a lot of Newcastle fans are upset and they're like, what the hell, man? No loyalty. It's like, oh wow, yeah, sorry that the Swedish striker that you signed from a Spanish team isn't loyal to Newcastle, England.
Yeah. It's like you're
It's
a
just the name of the
homegrown, like
game.
bro.
It's the name of the game, in my opinion. I think that obviously the team needs to do what they need to do, so I don't really have an argument against the decision from the team with training. There are certain rules and things like that and contractual obligations. Uh, so the team is well within its right to take those actions, but it's just funny how sometimes it needs to go down. It doesn't often need to go down like this, but a lot of times it does. These teams are just like they'd rather their player just throw an absolute fit than give in. And that only gets you so far because then you ban him from training, and it's like, come on now. We all know that Isak is most likely never playing another game for Newcastle. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this too, because my thoughts have always been like, what is Newcastle doing? If I was a Newcastle fan, just move on. He wants to leave. Sell him at his peak price. If the asking price they're talking about, it was somewhere around like 70 million or something like that. I think before Liverpool signed
Yeah, something
Florian
like
Wirtz,
that.
it was like, you know how what you could do with 7 million. Look, Isak is a great player. He's a great player. But if a team's willing to pay 70 million and you're Newcastle and you have goals and aspirations to make it back into the Champions League again, why not just sell the 70 million, bring in four players who can like 15 million each or slightly more who can be key contributors to your team. Like 70K can get you a whole fucking roster, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
I
so
agree.
much money.
It doesn't make any
Like,
sense for me. It's just one of those things. He hasn't been with this team for years to the point where he has that kind of status.
no, that he got poached from Real Sociedad. Like, I mean, he was
Exactly. So and the guy had a very good season, and he wants to move to a bigger club. I mean, that's part of it. It's just interesting. Again, I don't have any, like Newcastle needs to follow their rules. So, with Eddie Howe making the decision to banish him from training, I mean, there's no argument there. But it's just Newcastle should have put this to bed a long time ago. And if it's price, you know, teams argue over price all the time. Arsenal argue over price and bonuses and dumb shit like that constantly. But that doesn't lead to, basically internal fights between players. So basically, yeah, but in a way, it takes two to tango. If you really want to transfer, unless I mean, I'm not saying that it's Isak's fault or anything like that, but you when something gets to this level, you do have to look at both sides and be like, okay, could you at least like, is there a way you can show up to training or whatever? I don't know, like do something, maybe just play the preseason and just screw around. Like, I don't know. There's just little things you could probably do better, maybe. Um, but then
I don't know.
again,
I
you
mean,
have agents involved, you have all that, so it can get very confusing.
well, you don't want to get hurt. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is like you don't want to get hurt. I mean, you get hurt in a preseason, boom, market value tanks. And who's to say that he's going to
Then don't
replicate what he
try.
did
Nobody
this?
tells you you have to put full beans into it. And I know you can
Yeah.
still get injured. I know you can. I know that's not saying anything. You could land bad. You could just take a weird hit. But or just like, I don't know, come up with an agreement like, listen, I'm going to get a big transfer. I'm not playing more than this many minutes. Or if you have 2 games in a week, you pick me for one of like there's got to be some compromise. But I just feel like when both sides don't want a compromise, they're just gonna be like, ah, screw it.
My standpoint, and maybe it's a more of a toxic standpoint, but I'm like, if the guy doesn't want to be on the team, why have him? It's not good for the team. I mean, we're talking about like morale and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
and then on
It's
top of
very
that,
important.
he's worth so much money. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest sales in Newcastle history. Like, you can get so much back in return for him. Like, I think a lot of times we get so caught up in these big names and these big numbers, but there's still a shit ton of high quality players. Like, I mean, a $25 million signing is a massive deal for like a lot of teams. Why not take the money and just get like two of those guys and then like a couple other that are a few mil each. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's one of those, but we could pretty much end it there on This Week in Football. We gladly appreciate you guys for listening for these past 30 minutes. I think me and Adam, I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying these. I think it's pretty fun, just like kind of shooting the shit, talking about, especially now with like all the transfer stuff happening. It's pretty interesting, and I
Yeah,
think it
it's
leads
nice
to a lot
to
of
have a
interesting
format
conversation.
like this too. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
kind of make some decisions on the fly.
yeah,
We kind of pulled some
yeah,
topics up there. I had some Reddit pages pulled up that I had stumbled upon
oh
earlier.
gosh.
So it's one of those things, you just you can go through it, and I'm sure there'll be, periods of time with actual games going on where we can be a bit more focused, but that's the intention of this is kind of a less focused approach.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see more content like this, please feel free to like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next. Oh, and if you're listening on the audio platforms, go check out the YouTube. Or if you're on YouTube, go check out the audio platforms. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.